What's going on YouTube? Jamie the Kid 00 here, coming at you guys with another Infernity combo. This one promises to be a hell of a lot longer than my last combo because this combo is absolutely insanely huge. Uses a few cards that aren't out in my country at least yet. They're out in the US but they're not out in the UK yet. Which I will be proxying, so I will be outlining them in a moment, and I will be leaving links to the relevant pages down below. Either way, this is the Dewloren Infernity loop that Dueling Days profiled on his channel, I think about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Uses quite a few random cards. It really isn't viable at all, but it's just a bit of fun. And I figured because his video actually just kind of whirled around, and it's really hard to really learn what the combo is, I figured I'd actually do a tutorial video myself with the actual cards a little bit more slowed down and kind of show you guys specifically what you need to do to pull it off. Again, it's absolutely crazy. I don't think it's viable because so many things can stop it, but just be a bit of fun really. Either way, this is everything you're going to need to pull this off as far as I'm aware. I may have left something out. If I have left something out, I will get to that in the video when I realise it, but this is really complicated, and I think I've got everything, because it's taken me ages to write down the instructions. So this is what we're going to need. So first, to outline it, this is going to be everything we're going to need in our extra deck. We're going to need one Deep Sea Shock, and it's got to be essential that it's a Deep Sea Shock, because it has to be a water level 5 for our instant fusion. Then we're going to need 2 Leviair the Sea Dragons, 1 Daigusto Emerald. I'm proxying Daigusto Emerald with this Daigusto Phoenix because I don't have an Emerald yet because it hasn't been printed in my country, and I'm not going to buy the Dual Terminal one when I can't play it here. So this has to be Daigusto Emerald. A link to Daigusto Emerald will be in the description below so you can see what it is. Then you're going to need 3 100 Eyes Dragons, 1 Power Tool Dragon, 1 Dewloren Tiger King of the Ice Barrier, and 1 Armory Arm. In our graveyard, this is going to be all the cards we're going to need otherwise. In our graveyard, we're going to need 1 copy of Infernity Avenger, 1 Necromancer, and 1 Archfiend. In our deck, we're going to need 1 Infernity Knight, 1 Necromancer, 1 Archfiend, 1 Launcher, and 3 copies of Barrier. It doesn't have to be Barrier, but it has to be a target that's searchable for Archfiend so you can generate some kind of advantage. So this could be barriers, breaks, everything but monsters. And then finally, these aren't actually 3 copies of Monster Reincarnation. These are 3 copies of Symbols of Heritage. You're going to need 3 copies of Symbols of Heritage in your deck for this OTK to work, well, for this combo to work as well. Again, a link to Symbols of Heritage will be in the description below, but I just didn't have enough time to get in 3 copies of Symbols of Heritage. It's a common from some set, but again, a link to the Wikia article on Symbols of Heritage will be in the description, so you can see what it is, but for now this will be a proxy of symbols. And then the only 2 cards we're going to need in hand are Infernity Mirage and Instant Fusion. So I think I've explained everything. We're going to go on to the next segment of this video now, which is setting up the loop. Because there's a loop, but there is a long process of getting to your loop. So, let's get to that process. Okay then, segment 1, which is going to be setting up our loop. Those of you who watched my last Infernity video will realise I don't get these right all in one take. So there will be some editing in this, and I hope it doesn't get too choppy, but I've tried to lay out the field as you would see it, so forgive me if I start placing cards upside down, because I'm actually sat over here, so it's kind of awkward for me. But either way, the 2 cards we're going to need in hand to start this off are, of course, the Mirage and the Instant Fusion. I'm also going to be constantly reaching over here to turn my laptop back on so I can read my instructions that I typed up for myself, because I could not memorise this for the life of me. Either way, let's start the combo off. So what we're going to do is we're going to set our Instant Fusion in our Spell and Trap card zone and summon our Infernity Mirage. We're then going to tribute our Mirage to our graveyard to get ourselves a copy of Infernity Necromancer and Infernity Archfiend. We're then going to use the Archfiend to get our launcher from the deck and activate our Infernity Launcher. Right, we've now activated our launcher. We're then going to use Necromancer to get our copy of... wait, that's my deck. Our copy of Infernity Avenger from our graveyard. We're then going to synchro these 3 together to make 1 copy of 100 Eyes Dragon. We're then going to use our 100 Eyes Dragon, if I can just scroll down my instructions, to banish a copy of Infernity Mirage. Therefore its effect is now Infernity Mirages. We're then going to tribute the 100 Eyes Dragon to get the Necromancer and the Archfiend back. We're then going to use the Archfiend to get us a copy of Infernity Knight to our hand. So we now have Infernity Knight in our hand, and this is our board. We're then going to use the effect of our Infernity Launcher to send our knight from our hand to the graveyard. So we now have no cards in hand again. Just got to move these back to where they should be. We're then going to use the effect of our Necromancer to bring back our Infernity Knight to the field. We're then going to seize these two together to make a copy of Levier the Sea Dragon. Then we're going to use Levier, detaching our Necromancer, to get back our Infernity Mirage that we banished earlier. So our field should be at this point Levier, Arcfiend, and Mirage. And of course our launcher with our face down instant fusion. We're then going to use our effect of Mirage to get our Necromancer and Avenger back from the graveyard. We're then going to trip off our copy of Instant Fusion to get us a copy of Deep Sea Shark from the graveyard. From our extra deck. So this should be our current board, completely filled out with monsters. So that cuts our life points by 1,000. So you do need 1,000 life points to be able to pull off this combination. Right. Now we're going to Synchro Summon using our Infernity Avenger and Deep Sea Shark to get us a copy of Dewloren, Tiger King of the Ice Barrier. Now the Dewloren is essential, seeing as Brionac is banned, and we need a way to return a lot of our cards back to the deck and the extra and things like that, or just to get stuff off the field. So Dewloren becomes absolutely essential simply because we can't use Brionac anymore, which really kind of stifled the OTKs that this deck can pull off. We're then going to use the Necromancer's effect that we revived earlier on to bring back the Avenger we used to Synchro Summon our Dewloren. And then we're going to sync these three together to make another copy of 100 Eyes Dragon. So this should be our board of big monsters. We are then going to use our effect of Dewloren to return itself, Launcher, and Levier to the hand. So we're then going to send the Levier back to the extra, which sends our knight to the graveyard, send Dewloren back to the extra, and add our Infernity Launcher back to our hand. So I'll put it sideways. We're then of course going to activate our launcher again, because we don't want to keep it on board. We're then going to use our 100 Eyes Dragon that's been lying about on the field to banish our Mirage. We're then going to tribute our 100 Eyes Dragon to get back a copy of Necromancer and Arcfiend. You know, the usual combo. We're then going to use Arcfiend's effect to get ourselves another copy of Necromancer from the deck. Now, because we have reset our copy of Infernity Launcher, its effect is reset also, so we can use it to send another card to the graveyard. So we'll send our Necromancer to the grave. So our hand is now clean again. We're then going to use this copy of our Necromancer to get our that's my deck again, Infernity Knight from the graveyard. We're then going to make Levier again. So this is fairly kind of cyclic. It's just going to keep doing the same thing over and over. We're going to Levier back the Mirage. Right. Now, because of course we're slowly trying to generate advantage towards our OTK, or towards our loop, we are going to send our Mirage to the graveyard to bring back 2 copies of Infernity Necromancer. Because now we have 2 Necromancers in graveyard. Of course, you would have been able to skip out quite a few steps earlier on if you had 2 Necromancers in grave, but we're trying to do this combo from the most basic game state possible. So this gives you a field of 2 Necromancers, Arcfiend, Levier, and Infernity Launcher. We're then going to use the first copy of Infernity Necromancer to revive us a copy of Infernity Avenger. We're then going to synchro our Avenger with the used up copy of Necromancer to make us a copy of Armory Arm. So we're actually using Armory Arm now in this combo. We're then going to use Necromancer number 2 to bring back the the Avenger we just used. And then synchro the last normal type monsters we have on board to make our last copy of 100 Eyes Dragon. So this should be our board. We're then going to use 100 Eyes Dragon to copy our Mirage again and tribute it to get back the 2 copies of Necromancer that we had in the graveyard. We're then going to use one of our Necromancers to get us a copy of Infernity Archfiend. Now, at these stages, whenever I bring out Archfiend, you can feel free to search out your copies of Barrier, but quite frankly, just for simplicity's sake, we're not going to search these until we're looping, just to keep everything nice and clean on board. So at these points, you can be starting to plus off of Archfiend, but just for simplicity's sake, I'm not going to do it. You're going to summon this so many times, just in case we want to keep our spell traps clear, because we do use a few spell traps in this combo. We're then going to make our copy of Daigusto Emerald using Armory Arm and Infernity Archfiend. Daigusto Emerald. Because as you remember, I said I had to proxy Daigusto Emerald because I'm not going to spend £50 on the American version. I'm going to wait until it comes out over here. We're then going to use Necromancer number 2, sorry, the one we haven't actually used yet, to bring back our Infernity Avenger from the grave. We're then going to make another copy of Levier the Sea Dragon with our 2 copies of Necromancer that we've used up. So our board is getting fairly complex with lots of pluses on board. Okay, so now that we've made Levier, our board should be Daigusto Emerald, 2 Leviers, and an Avenger with a launcher on the back row. Right, now we're going to use our copy of Daigusto Emerald, detaching our Fiend to get us our copy of Deep Sea Shock back from the graveyard. Because apparently you can do that. Right, then we're going to synchro our Avenger and our Deep Sea Shock to make our copy of Dewloren again. So you can see where this is going. Our field is about to disappear. We're then going to use our Levier to bring back... Oh god, I put the Mirage in the graveyard when I was fixing our combo. We're then going to use our Levier to bring back the Mirage, because I made a mistake earlier on and I had to edit that out, and I may have put the Mirage back by accident. Then we are going to make our field disappear by returning Dewloren, Levier, and Emerald all back to the extra deck. So, lots of cards back to the extra deck. And of course we're going to return the launcher back to our hand, so that we can cycle it back out in a moment. So everything has been sent to the graveyard, and our field should just be Mirage with a launcher in hand. We're then going to activate our launcher. Use our Mirage to get back 2 copies of Infernity Necromancer. We're then going to use our Necromancer number 1 to get back a copy of Infernity Archfiend. Infernity Archfiend is going to search us out another copy of Infernity Archfiend from the deck. And then we're going to use the launcher to send the Archfiend to the graveyard. Then Necromancer number 2 is going to revive our copy of Infernity Avenger that is in the graveyard. And then we're going to synchro these 3 together, and this is where it gets kind of cool, to make our copy of Power Tool Dragon. This is where our copies of Symbols of Heritage come into play, because they are an equip card that is going to be essential for this OTK to work. Sorry, for this loop to work. I keep calling it an OTK, I'm sorry about that, guys. So we're then going to use Power Tool Dragon's effect to search out a copy of Symbols of Heritage, because we're going to, of course, reveal 3. They will pick one at random. It will always be Symbols of Heritage. So we're going to add our symbols to our hand. And then the other 2 will go back to the deck. We're then going to, of course, set our Symbols of Heritage, because we don't want to cramp our combo, do we? We're then going to use our launcher by sending it to the graveyard to get back a copy of Infernity Avenger and Infernity Archfiend. We're not going to use the Archfiend's effect at this point. We can if we want to, but we don't need the pluses yet, because we're going to be looping later on. We're then going to make a copy of Daigusto Emerald again. We'll then use our Emerald to revive our copy of Deep Sea Shock. We're then going to synchro these 2 together to make Dewloren again. Christ, this really is looping. And then we're going to use our Symbols of Heritage to revive us a copy of 100 Eyes Dragon from the graveyard. And this is basically where our loop starts to happen. We're then going to use Dewloren to return Symbols of Heritage, Power Tool Dragon, Emerald, and itself back to the extra deck. And of course, Symbols back to the hand. Now the Symbols detaches from our 100 Eyes Dragon, and our 100 Eyes Dragon is stuck on the field. So now, of course, we're going to set our symbols of heritage, and now we basically have our loop. Either way, guys, that has been part 1 of our kind of Infernity combo video. This is where it gets kind of complicated. This was kind of the harder part, setting up our loop, and now we're going to go on to loop our resources, because with 100 Eyes Dragon and Symbols of Heritage, you can basically continuously loop by returning to having a field of this, and just Symbols of Heritaging a 100 Eyes back, and continuously looping by adding symbols back to hand and going to Dewloren, get this guy. You can just continuously loop for advantage, and we're going to go through the kind of things you can do with the loop after this video, but this was setting up your Infernity loop or your Dewloren loop. I hope this has been a bit informative. I'll see you soon with the next bit of the video, because this is going to take ages to edit. But yeah, I hope you found this informative. This has been Jamie the Kid 00, and I'll see you with the rest of this Infernity combo real soon. Peace out, guys. Bye.